right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this next one of the TV6 Investigates Talks, where we're going to talk a little bit about some of the work that Matt is doing. And so this week we've had kind of two different stories on scams, basically, that are affecting money and affecting people in the Quad Cities area. And so first you did a story on a skimming scam that was recently discovered. It's kind of a crazy story. So why don't you just kind of update us on that?
Sure. What you need to know first is what skimming is, I think.
Yeah.
And that's using a device on a card reader that sucks your data off of the card.
Okay.
There are two kinds of them. Ones that attach to the outside of the machine that are a little easier to spot,
Okay.
and then others called shimmers that are actually in the card reader that are almost impossible to detect. In this case, it was a skimmer being used on some IHMVCU credit union ATM machines and or ATMs, and police were able to capture somebody in that case because employees at the bank were able to spot some of these devices on the machines. They did some further investigation, grabbed some, used security cameras to spot who was doing it,
Wow.
found the car, pulled them over, apprehended some suspects in the car. What's unusual in this case is that it's a Romanian national who says that he snuck across the southern border and has been going across the country for the last year or so, perhaps up to no good.
Wow, that is definitely wild. And so, what should, if people bank at IH or use the ATMs, because people use ATMs from any kind of bank nowadays, and so what should people be looking for and what should they do?
Sure. There are ways to see the skimmers. If you look closely at the machine, sometimes they'll look like the card reader doesn't quite fit right, or the casing around it looks like maybe not correct. There's also tamper strips on the sides of a lot of cash machines now, where it's like like a safety thing, and when you open up a bottle or something, the seal gets broken, so you can see that that machine has been opened up.
Okay.
Those are things definitely to watch for. And it's not just ATMs, it's any kind of point of sale card reader machine. So these are also commonly found at fuel pumps because they're easy to install there. There aren't people watching those pumps all the time, things like that. And then they come back later and collect your data. So if you're watching for this and you see it, you've got to report it right away to your lending institution, and then also to your local police, who will typically then bring in, depending on the crime, they might bring in additional investigating agencies to look into this too.
And I remember in your story, something it said is they don't necessarily transfer the funds out of your bank directly. And so I guess, how do people know if they even are a victim?
Right. You're going to see something on your bank statement that'll look a little odd. In these cases, right, the experts that I talked to said that they're not coming in, reading the card information, and then emptying your account on the spot. They're taking that data and then using it to go purchase things like gift cards or other ways to hide the trail of that money. So that makes them hard to catch after the fact. In the specifics of this case, I reached out to IHMVCU and I haven't heard back yet. I'll update us if we do hear back on that. But a lot of the people I talked to said it's pretty common for banks to reimburse victims of skims and scams like that. So
well, that's some good news then.
it is some good news.
Yeah.
It is some good news.
And then the other story that you covered this week also, that also has to do with money and scams, is counterfeit bills. So there were some areas in the Quad Cities area that got hit by counterfeit bills. And so can you tell us a little bit about that, and then what we need to know?
Sure. Unlike skimming scams, if you're out a $100 bill in a counterfeit scam, you're out a $100 bill. So these are a little less common, but much harder to recoup losses from. And where we've seen this money being passed lately is in Princeton, Illinois area. 7 or 8 businesses were hit there over the last 2 weeks. Police are investigating those cases as we speak too. But those affect a lot of businesses, a lot of places where there's cash being passed back and forth. It's not as sophisticated a crime as a skimmer or a shimmer machine. And these are typically lower level crimes because they're not as lucrative as a skimmer or scammer or a phone scheme or something like that, where you can collect large amounts of money in an instant. But in this case, passing counterfeits, you're really only going to spend $100 or $200 at a time to, to buy that drink, use a $100 bill on a bar, and get $95 back.
Right.
And that's sort of how that scam works. Locally, in the metro, it's a problem too. It pops up every so often. I talked to the sheriff here, and he told me it's a lot of times there's two things that happen. It's a ring of counterfeiters who will come in, blow a lot of cash in a local place, and then move on somewhere else where they're harder to detect. Or it's a lower level criminal who's gone from things like car break-ins and wants to move on from stealing change in someone's dash to something a little more lucrative, but doesn't have the sophistication to pull off a bigger crime. So they'll counterfeit bills using printers. Movie money is actually a really popular way. It's a lot more accessible to get prop money than it used to be because of the internet and things like that. So that's a little more common. Printing press counterfeited money is a little antiquated now. So the printers they're using are more high tech. And then the third method to do it is just to wash the bills and then remark them in higher denominations. So couple of good pieces of advice from law enforcement that I talked to here, where if you're dealing with large amounts of cash in a sale situation, like buying a car or something, a private sale that involves a large amount of cash, is to do that exchange at your bank, because you can take those hundreds in, have them looked at instantly, and on the spot they'll be able to authenticate those bills. Because if you receive a fraudulent bill or a counterfeit bill, they're not going to reimburse you for that.
Yeah,
that's on you.
You're out of the money.
You're out of the money. And that's the same for businesses. And that's why, it's so important to train your employees to know what to look for, and for people themselves to know what to look for too.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, well, you can find both of these stories right now on our TV6 News app and on our website. A lot of really good information there and stuff to definitely keep in mind as, all of these scams become more sophisticated, as you said.
Yeah, stay informed. You can do that on our website.
So. Yep, definitely. All right, thanks for joining us this week.